Lurkers explores the dark side of the online world. It contains adult themes and disturbing content for mature audiences only.
It's morning in Chelmsford, around 8:30 a.m. in the United Kingdom, with a kind of cold that makes the air feel sharp. A hallway light flickers behind frosted glass. A letterbox lid clacks as if someone held it up. Then, the sudden pounding at her door. Helen startles. She isn't expecting anyone, and she's also about to head out. But the pounding comes again, harder, so she opens the door. Ashley Wadsworth is standing there, barefoot, shaking, a cut on her hand. Her phone looks damaged, like it's been grabbed and thrown. Ashley tries to speak, but the words won't line up. Then it comes out, raw and fast. "Jack's just beaten me up, and he threw the kitten against the wall." Helen's instinct is immediate. Call the police. Now. But Ashley flinches at the idea like it's a threat. No police. Not here. Not yet. Because Ashley isn't only scared of what already happened. She's scared of what happens next if Jack thinks she's trying to leave. Ashley calls her sister Hayley from Helen's phone back in Vernon, British Columbia, Canada. Thousands of miles away, it's the middle of the night. A voice answers, groggy, and suddenly the fear is in stereo. Helen frozen in a hallway in England, a living room where Ashley can barely speak, and a sister in Canada listening to her voice crack from the other side of the world. Hayley begs her sister to come back home, to go to the airport and fly back to Canada. In the meantime, a message comes in from Jack, promising to change. Soft words, a new beginning. Ashley stares at the screen like it's a leash you can't see. She walks back through the hallway, and Helen insists she needs to call the police. But Ashley walks out the door. Helen didn't know it yet, but that would be the last time she would ever speak to Ashley again. In a world where connection is effortless, every click feels safe. But online, trust can be deceiving. This is Lurkers, true stories of trust, desire, and how technology, if unchecked, can turn it all against us. Ashley Wadsworth was 19 years old, from Vernon, British Columbia. Sky News described her as a Canadian teenager, far from home, close to the life she thought she was building. Ashley's father, Ken, described her with a kind of ache you can hear. She always had a big smile on her face and wanted to explore, play, and laugh. Her sister Hayley said growing up with Ashley was pure fun. Ashley wanted to do everything, make memories, go on adventures. And then her mother, Christy, said Ashley was a free spirit who loved life and loved sharing her life online. Photos, updates, the little clips that made it feel like you were right there with her. According to Macleans.ca, Ashley didn't even have her own smartphone at 12. She was on the family laptop, doing what kids did online in mid-2010, adding friends of friends, clicking through profiles, saying hi to strangers who didn't feel like strangers yet. And that's how she and Jack first connected in 2015. Facebook friends through a mutual acquaintances page. He was older, 18 in England. She was a kid in Vernon, British Columbia. It started as daily messages, pen pal energy, two different worlds refreshing each other's screens. And pretty quickly, Ashley brought him into her real life. She mentioned Jack to her mom, Christy, and to her sister Haley, enough that his face became a familiar presence in the house, popping up on screens while dinner was being made. The time difference, though, made it feel even more intense. Ashley waking up before dawn to talk, Jack staying up late. The connection grew from confidants to crushes, and then to something that felt like commitment, especially when Jack started sending gifts. Packages started showing up in Canada like proof, little parcels that made the relationship feel physical, something you could hold, clothing, money, teddy bears, jewelry, and even a handbag. Presents you could show your family, something that said, "This is real," even when it's thousands of miles away. But Christy, Ashley's mom, drew a line early. McLean's notes that Ashley started asking to visit him in 2018 when she was only 15. And the answer was no, not yet, not until she was old enough. Because there's a difference between a teenage romance on screen and sending your daughter across an ocean to someone you've never met in person. Ashley waited. She grew up, and when she finally turned 19, she saved her money and made the plan real. Not dramatic, not impulsive, practical. A young woman believing she was stepping into her life. Ashley kept living her life in Vernon, and soon she could legally work. She started stacking hours at part-time jobs, fast food restaurants, Home Depot, a clothing store, racking up shifts, building savings, building independence. She bought her own iPad so she wasn't stuck on the family laptop anymore. She even deferred starting university during the pandemic period. Finally, on November 12, 2021, at 19, Ashley bought a ticket, said goodbye, and flew to London, her first time traveling alone. From her airplane seat, she posted a snapshot blowing kisses to the people she loved. And the dream had a first frame, an arrival's gate, fluorescent light, the drag of wheels on tile. In London Gatwick, after years of living as messages and calls, this was the first time Ashley and Jack were face to face. Her mother, Christy, later said her daughter's first impression of Jack was amazing. For a moment, it looked like the story Ashley had been building inside her phone had finally stepped into real life. She posted about London, about how old everything felt, how different it was, and to friends watching from Canada, it looked like a dream. But before we move into what happened next, if this story hits you, please follow Lurkers, leave a quick review, and share the show with someone you care about. It takes what? A minute? Okay, maybe 2. But it's powerful. It's how you help these stories reach farther than we ever could alone. So thank you, really. For a while, the story still looked bright from far away. Photos, little videos, 2 people together in England, finally not separated by oceans and time zones. But according to Hulu's The Social Media Murders, the distance between what Ashley posted and what Ashley lived started to widen. A friend of Ashley's, Tiana, said she wanted to believe Ashley was enjoying herself in those moments she shared online. But Haley, Ashley's sister, put it differently. The posts made it look better than it was. Jack wasn't taking her out the way people imagine a first trip overseas should feel. He wasn't bringing flowers, and because he wasn't working, Ashley and Jack were inside most of the time, life narrowing down to the size of an apartment and the mood of the person in it. Then, in December 2021, Jack overdosed. Paramedics took him to a local hospital. Haley said he had taken a bunch of pills, trying to kill himself. Christy later said her daughter Ashley called the ambulance. Ashley saved him. Once Jack was out of the hospital after New Year's, things shifted fast. Haley said he became more controlling, and the control wasn't subtle. It moved straight into Ashley's digital life. He asked Ashley for her social media passwords, and Ashley gave them to him. And then Tiana received a message from Ashley that read, "Be careful what you say. He's watching." And then almost immediately, Ashley deleted it. Haley also started to feel it on FaceTime, calls that didn't feel private. Ashley would shush her and then tell her not to talk when Jack was angry, and when Haley tried to ask real questions sisters ask when they're scared, Ashley would correct her, "Don't speak like that." Not because Ashley didn't want the truth, but because the truth wasn't safe to say it out loud. Then, on January 11th, 2022, Ashley called Haley on FaceTime and told her Jack had hit her over the head with a glass cup.
Is that everything you can use to sit here and crack? Look at me when I talk to you!
Ashley didn't want her parents to know because she didn't want to make them worry. Or maybe it was shame. Because saying the truth out loud would mean saying something terrible too. That the boy she had waited years for was not the prince she had built in her head, and not the one she had painted for her parents back home. And Ken, Ashley's dad, later described the change he experienced in real time. Chats getting shorter and shorter, calls less frequent. The family could feel her slipping away while she was still talking to them. A week later, Haley saw more through a FaceTime call, another altercation. Jack throwing objects at Ashley. That was the moment Haley couldn't keep it to herself anymore. She told Christy something was wrong, so Christy spoke to Ashley, and Ashley portrayed the opposite, like everything was fine. Like nothing was happening, like the screen could still protect her mother from the truth. And for 2 weeks, Haley begged and begged Ashley to come home, but Ashley wouldn't commit, and she would say, quote, "I don't know if I want to," end quote. And when Haley pressed, "Why would you stay?" Ashley answered with a sentence that can be hope or fear, or both, quote, "I'm going to stay and work things out," end quote. By then, the relationship wasn't just long distance anymore. It was close range, vault closed, sealed like something shut from the inside. It's now February 1st, 2022. Jack smashed Ashley's phone and hit her. And around 8:30 a.m., Jack's doorbell camera captured Ashley leaving the house. This is the moment you heard at the beginning of the episode. Helen, Jack's neighbor, opened the door and saw Ashley barefoot, shaking, with a cut in her hand and a smashed phone. But here's what's new for you. When Ashley was in Helen's living room talking to Haley on Helen's phone, they realized their escape plan had friction, Ashley needed a COVID test before she could fly back to Canada. And this is when Jack texted Ashley, asking for forgiveness, promising he would take her to get the test, and then bring her to the airport. You see, promises can sound like rescue when you're exhausted and scared, and your whole nervous system just wants the danger to stop escalating. So when Ashley stared at those messages for a moment, she chose to go back. After Ashley returned to Jack's place, Haley tried to reach her again. No answer. She waited and waited, and eventually sleep won. Later that night, at around 3 a.m. Pacific time, Tiana, one of Ashley's friends back in Vernon, received a text. It said, "Hey, it's Ashley. Please reply now. I need your help. Please go on my Facebook friends and find Sister Ashworth. Give her this number and tell her to contact me. I need help." Tiana wasn't sure what that meant, but she responded, asking for contact details. But Ashley never texted back. Then, sometime after, around 3:30 a.m. in Vernon, Haley's phone received a message from Ashley. It read, "Haley, please answer." But Haley was dozed off. She woke up hours later and started messaging Ashley back, then calling without stop. Haley would later say she called her sister about 19 times, but no answer. She called Jack's phone too. No answer. And right away, Haley knew something was wrong. As the hours passed, Haley's fear hardened, so she called Helen again, pleading with her to go check on Ashley. Helen went back and knocked on Jack's door repeatedly at about 1:10 p.m. UK time. No answer. Helen lifted the letterbox lid and shouted into the house.
Ashley?
And that's when she heard Jack respond, "We're in bed." When Helen told Haley, she didn't believe it for a second. The texts and calls continued, family and friends bouncing between each other, trying to decide the next step when they were far away and couldn't physically reach the person they loved. It was in this moment that Tiana told Ashley's family about the unsettling message she had received earlier that morning. Ashley's grandmother used that information, went on Facebook, and searched for Sister Ashworth. And indeed, Sister Ashworth had met Ashley days before. Haley would later reveal in interviews that Ashley had been visiting a Mormon church in Chelmsford when she started to feel low in the relationship. It was evident Ashley had been struggling and looking for help in quiet ways. So the family pleaded with the church sisters to go to Jack's house and knock on the door. The sisters already knew Ashley was suffering from domestic violence. They went as a group and arrived at the house at 3:59 p.m. UK time. They knocked, just like Helen. No answer, only muffled sounds from inside. 2 minutes later, at 4:01 p.m., the sisters called police. They told dispatch Ashley had been texting them about her troubled relationship and that they believed she was a victim of domestic violence. Sky News reported police arrived shortly after at the address on Tennyson Road. They knocked on the door, and just like the others, no answer, but they saw someone peeking from a window. After warning of forced entry, at 4:13 p.m., officers kicked the door in.
Calling on. We have 211 at 454 South Main. Backup needed.
After police entered the room, Jack was using his phone, talking to his sister. Officers moved fast. They tried first aid on Ashley right there, in the bedroom, and they asked him what happened. Jack answered, calm, but terrifying, "I went psychotic. I'm sorry." They asked him what he meant, and he said it. I strangled her and stabbed her. Outside, Helen was still there, standing in the cold, watching the street fill with uniforms and urgency. She watched as paramedics brought Ashley out onto the front lawn and tried to revive her. Hands moving quickly, voices clipped and controlled, that desperate rhythm you hear when people are trying to pull someone back from the edge. But it was too late. Ashley had been stabbed multiple times, and she had died a few hours before police arrived. Back in Canada, Christy, Ashley's mom, waited with the rest of the family for any word. Minutes that felt like hours, a phone that never rang fast enough. And Christy would later say that even before anyone officially confirmed it, in her mind, she already knew the dreadful reality. Helen called Haley and told her what had happened, and then the police followed with a call that changes a family forever, telling Christy that Ashley was dead and telling her they had the perpetrator in custody. They confirmed it was Jack. Christy would later describe herself dropping to her knees and screaming. After that, she said her mind went blank. And there was another detail, the kind of thing that makes your skin go cold because it feels so deliberate. Scott Edgerton, the detective from Essex Police in charge of Ashley's case, said that around the time of Ashley's murder, Jack Seppel updated his profile picture. He used a photo of him and Ashley together and posted the words, "Forever mine." It wasn't grief. It was possession. 24 hours later, on February 2nd, 2022, Jack was sitting at police headquarters in Chelmsford being questioned. He was interviewed 3 times under caution with his solicitor present, and to every question, Jack gave the same answer: no comment. Detective Edgerton described him as, quote, emotionless throughout the process, end quote. But the investigation didn't stop because Jack refused to speak. Police still needed the murder weapon, and if he wasn't going to tell them where it was, they were going to find it themselves. So Detective Edgerton ordered search officers and specialists back into the home. According to police reports, they found a blood-stained knife hidden behind the radiator in the bedroom. DNA testing would later confirm the blood on the blade was Ashley's, and Jack Seppel's DNA on the handle. Investigators also inspected Ashley's smashed phone. They discovered video, Ashley documenting bruises on her legs, her arms, across her body, proof she had been living in a cage with a monster. Still, the family feared what could happen next, that Jack's mental state would become the escape hatch, that the defense might try to pull the charge down from murder to manslaughter. Haley would later say it plainly, quote, he is not as crazy as he was trying to portray, and I think he was trying to do that to get a lighter sentence and hopefully not go to prison for a long time, end quote. Experts were brought in, assessments were done, and according to the reporting around the case, the conclusion was this: Jack Seppel did have mental health issues, but not to a level that excused what he did, and not to a level that removed his responsibility for it. Eventually, the case moved to court. Jack Seppel admitted murdering Ashley Wadsworth at Chelmsford Crown Court, after a psychiatrist found him fit to enter a plea to the single charge of murder. It shocked the family because they'd been preparing to travel to Essex for a trial that had been set for November 8. But guilty doesn't close anything for the people left behind. It just moves the pain into a different room. Five days before sentencing, on October 5th, 2022, Ashley's family went to the cemetery in Vernon to say goodbye, the way families do when the world keeps demanding new versions of grief. Christy had a headstone made beside Ashley's, side by side, with her own name on it too, so that one day she could be buried next to her daughter. And then October 10, 2022 came. The family walked into the courtroom in Essex. Ken, Ashley's father, said, quote, "He needs to see our faces. I just want to see him do a lot of time." End quote. And Christy, Ashley's mom, brought a victim impact statement to the court, the center of the truth. She said, quote, "Ashley is my youngest of my two daughters. Her sense of adventure and love for life was an amazement to us all. Ashley was fiercely loyal, always protecting her sister, niece, and myself. She was truly the backbone of our little family. Ashley's passion and love for Jack would ultimately cost her her life. My last memory of Ashley will always be her funeral, and holding her cold hands and seeing her lifeless body laying in a casket. But this is no Sleeping Beauty story, as Ashley is never waking up again. Ashley was ripped away from us in the most cruel way, and this is a nightmare that, thanks to you, Jack, we will never wake up from." End quote. The court also heard what Detective Edgerton emphasized. Jack Seppel was not a mystery to Essex police. He was known to them. His offending had begun years earlier, and his pattern included using social media to harass, threaten, and control women when he didn't get what he wanted. An escalation that, in Ashley's case, turned fully physical. And finally, the sentence came. Jack Seppel was ordered to serve a minimum of 23.5 years behind bars. After the conviction, Detective Edgerton said, quote, "Jack Seppel admitted murdering 19-year-old Ashley Wadsworth. Instead of sharing a life together, he will serve a life sentence alone." End quote. And if there's one thing, after hearing all of this, that Christy wants to leave you with, yes, you, my dear listener, it's this, straight from Ashley's mom. My favorite quote of all. Quote, "It's exactly what Ashley would have wanted. To help you. That's who she was. To save someone else if they hear this story, and to save another family, another young girl or boy, to save them and see the signs, to reach out for help before it's too late." End quote. Remember Ashley Wadsworth, and remember that a relationship can look safe on a screen while becoming dangerous behind a closed door. Stay aware. Stay present. Stay safe. This episode of Lurkers was researched and written by me, Frank Battiston. Production and sound design by Daniel Erdenivia. Thank you for listening. If this story shook you to your core, like it did us, share it with someone you love and tell them why. Your ratings and reviews help others discover these stories, and every share helps keep their voices alive. Follow Lurkers on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so you'll be here for the next one. Thank you for listening.